The story kicks off with a few dudes making their way down a corridor, in a place that has all the vibes of an abandoned warehouse. One Wako, who seems to be the leader, gives a side eye to a busted door, pointing out their escape route. Heading down the hall, he orders his whole crew to follow him, making a beeline for this supposed exit. The second they open the door, they totally freak out at what they see. As soon as they open it, they come face to face with a mess of eyes, legs, arms, and a whole lot of ketchup, if you catch my drift. Then they look ahead and spot a glowing ritual circle on the floor, with a bunch of folks doing some good old-fashioned juju. The kind that's strong enough to win over that cute girl you've been crushing on. The two of them think this little group has got to be kidding. But then, out of nowhere, everything starts to glitch out. Suddenly, we see a kid who looks like our MC, and apparently he was having a nightmare. He sits up in bed with his hand on his head, looking like he's got a killer migraine. The kid tries to figure out what just happened. As he reaches for his mug, we see some weird monster drawings next to our MC, like a cyclops octopus and a demon, showing he either has a wild imagination or is just a little out there. Holding his mug, the MC glances at his phone, which is ringing off the hook. On the phone, an urgent news notification pops up, but before he can check the message, he gets startled by something outside his window. And just like that, a crazy gust of wind bursts into the room, leaving the MC frozen in the middle of the mess. He starts putting on a jacket while deciding to check another room in the house to see what's going on. The MC heads down the stairs of his house and hears some strange noises. When he gets to the living room, he walks right into a horror movie scene. These cloaked figures notice the MC's presence and immediately look his way. The MC freezes on the spot, thinking things have just gone south big time. Without a second thought, he turns around and bolts. The kid manages to get into a room, slamming the door shut behind him. As soon as the door is closed, the kid throws himself back in desperation. Leaning against the door, he yells for them to get lost, threatening to call the special division, kind of like calling the cops on your noisy neighbors. After a moment, with his face dripping sweat and his heart pounding, he wonders if they've left yet. In a panic, the MC grabs his phone and thinks about calling the special division. While he's trying to call, yelling hello, a bunch of weird hands appear at the window, and he gets ticked off, wondering why nobody is picking up. Just then, a giant creature with spider legs pops up in front of him, asking if he was the spy from the spider god's ritual. The red-eyed monster glares at him and starts putting him down, calling the MC pathetic and inferior. The MC lets out a scream of pure terror as he comes face to face with this abomination. In an act of courage, or maybe desperation, he charges at the giant, trying to land a punch and telling the thing to get out of there. But the creature grabs his arm with zero effort, saying that resistance is futile. Even while trapped, the MC curses up a storm and tries to break free, attempting to escape. The monster says there's no escape, but the MC manages to wriggle free and starts running like his life depends on it. He gets into another room and slams the door shut, terrified. But then a creature covered in bubbles blocks the way, and the MC screams for it to get out of his face. He looks at that disgusting thing in the doorway and thinks he's in deep trouble now. He's surrounded with nowhere to go. In the middle of the warehouse, the MC looks around terrified, asking who's there, until a mysterious voice echoes, asking if he wants to live. A figure covered in a dark blue cloak begins to materialize in the air. The figure reveals herself to be a blindfolded woman in a nun's habit, floating with a bluish energy, like some kind of saint. The MC stares at the floating woman with his jaw on the floor, completely clueless about this whole apparition. The woman introduces herself as the strange editing system, whatever that's supposed to mean. The MC is confused and asks what kind of system she is, and if she's some sort of evil goddess here to collect his soul. The woman says her title doesn't matter, and tells him this is his newbie prize, creating a sphere of energy in her hand. Out of nowhere, a mysterious treasure chest appears in front of him. The woman explains that he can combine 5 random materials to create his own servant monster. The MC wonders what those glowing cards are, and the woman explains that the outcome depends on the mix, calling his hand the chaotic hand of creation. The kid gets a little flustered by the compliment and says she's laying it on a bit thick. The sound of the creature trying to break down the door snaps the MC back to reality, reminding him that he's about to become dinner. Surrounded by the cards, he asks if he can mix them all at once. The system says yes, but warns him there's an important catch. The woman explains that if the mix is bad, you'll get total junk, kinda like putting strawberries in your coffee. The MC thinks that's a terrible comparison as the door is just about to give way. With a look on his face, like he knows exactly what he's doing, he holds the cards and says he already has the perfect plan. Inside a magic circle, the MC begins the ritual, commanding the monster to obey, and the system woman completes the order. The MC proclaims himself the saint, who blesses the world, and says he will twist fate with his hand of chaos. Focused, he extends his hands and orders the birth of his first monster, expecting something epic. And the result is a little yellow balloon with a spooky face, described as a 2-star fear balloon. The MC just stands there, looking like a total idiot, staring at the balloon in disbelief. Annoyed, he complains that he wanted a real monster, not a Halloween decoration. The woman says it turned out great, but he gets mad, asking how in the world this is great. The The door breaks down and the giant spider enters the room, announcing that the party's over. The MC yells at his crying balloon, asking how the enemy can possibly be stronger. The monster charges forward yelling for them to perish, but the yellow balloon musters its courage and flies right at it. The system announces that the monster leveled up and gives him a choice of skills. The MC, surprised, quickly picks Absorption Aura and Hellfire Whip. In a flash, a flaming whip cracks the spider right in the face, which definitely wasn't expecting to get smacked like that. The creature hits the floor with a thud, kicking up dust and wondering what that was. The MC looks at the whip in his hand, surprised by his own power. The monster glares at the kid with pure hatred and wonders if he's one of the so-called awakened. The MC turns to the system woman and asks if he's now part of the awakened club. The spider, absolutely furious, screams that the awakened ones are nothing but trouble and that the kid is about to be taken out. The little yellow balloon flies forward to attack with a tiny battle cry. The monster gets the balloon stuck to its face and, totally confused, tries to figure out what this pest is. Seeing the creature dazed, the MC praises his fear balloon and tells it to keep distracting the enemy. Without wasting a second, the MC leaps over the monster and preps his final blow with the fire whip. He brings the whip down with everything he's got and shouts the name of the attack, Hellfire Whip, just to add some style. In the middle of a fiery explosion, the creature screams desperately for its lord before getting toasted. The MC watches the system screen congratulate him for the rare item poison sac. With a smile of relief, he looks at his monster and thinks the worst is over. But then he hears cries for help coming from the street, which kills his happy vibe instantly. The MC looks out the window to try and figure out where that call for help came from. He sees several spider monsters crawling up the buildings and spreading out, and he's freaked out by how many there are. The city is in chaos, with webs everywhere and monsters climbing everything, looking like a nightmare. A man trapped in a web screams, begging for his life, saying he has a family. Another guy hides in terror, asking where the special division is when they're needed most. We see several people trapped in cocoons, like a spider's food stash. One of the creatures moves in to have a little snack on another victim. Back in the room, the MC finds it weird that the city's defense system hasn't activated and suspects something is wrong. He thinks about the failed phone call and starts to believe there might have been some sabotage. The fear balloon says they need to do something, or the whole city will become an offering. The kid gets serious, thinking that if the god of these creatures shows up, then it's really game over for everyone. The little balloon tries to help lift a box, but slams right into the corner, proving that strength isn't its strong suit. The box falls to the floor and the balloon is left there, lying on the ground. Seeing his little monster whimpering, the MC asks, annoyed, if it's really a 2-star or if he got ripped off. He tries to cheer up the balloon, named Xiaoqiu, saying it can beat stronger monsters, giving it a little self-esteem boost. The balloon starts to cry and fly around in circles, in a scene that's both depressing and hilarious. Suddenly, the balloon stops crying, its eyes turn red, and it unleashes a powerful aura. The energy explodes and spreads across the city, bursting over the tops of the buildings. Meanwhile, the city continues to burn as the monsters run wild. A group of agents in suits from the special division finally shows up on the street, firing at the monsters. One of the agents, holding a heavy weapon, just lets it rip against a monster and screams, totally furious, for the creature to go meet its maker. But the beast counters with a massive swipe, sending the agents flying. The other agent yells his partner's name, Old Lee, while his colleague in the background is also in shock from the beatdown. Out of nowhere, a colossal spider appears, ugly as heck, with poison sacs on its body, laughing and introducing itself as Gusa, a priest of the spider god, telling everyone to surrender to this Atlachnacha thing. The squad leader raises his hand and orders Squad 2 to fall back so they don't become Monster Chow, telling the rank 4 awakened to get ready for a fight. 3 of the awakened launch their magical attacks all at once. The giant monster doesn't even feel a tickle and lets out a sinister chuckle as the attacks explode against it, doing nothing but making smoke and noise. The group's leader gets a look of disbelief on his face, realizing the creature came out completely unscathed. He gets ticked off and wonders how a bunch of rank 4 and 5 guys are supposed to take that thing down, also questioning where on earth General Li Xuan got to. The leader then screams for the team to keep laying into it, saying the beast can't leave the West District and that they have to protect Hang City no matter what. The battle rages on, with the leader yelling for the soldiers to maintain the hail of bullets and for the awakened to spam their skills without holding back. Taking all sorts of hits to the face, the giant monster lets out a cry of pain, but still has the nerve to call its opponents pathetic. Just then, a whip appears out of thin air and wraps around the spider's leg, while a voice announces that it and its lord have really worn out their welcome. The giant creature is caught by surprise and is totally confused as an explosion goes off on its body. Looking up, the monster sees a mysterious figure on top of a building and asks who the wise guy was that attacked it. Up on the roof, the MC appears with his flaming whip and the fear balloon, which is now also on fire. The giant creature glares up at the MC from below and asks who's interrupting its lunch. Masked and whip in hand, the MC calmly replies that the monster isn't worthy to speak to him and that its master should come in person. The huge monster gets furious and calls the MC arrogant, asking if he thinks he's some some kind of god. It adds that his whole tough guy act doesn't fly with the great spider god. Back on the rooftop, the MC, next to his little balloon, scoffs at the creature's thoughts, commenting that it really has become just a bug since its brain stopped working. The giant spider doesn't appreciate the taunt and, with a furious scream, orders its smaller minions to go up there and devour the MC. Obeying instantly, the spiders start climbing the building at an insane speed, rushing toward the MC, who waits casually at the top. Down below, one of the agents sees what's happening and panics, yelling for him to get out of there before he becomes an appetizer. But the MC doesn't even blink and, holding out a hand to his partner, he drops the line Xiao Qi, you know the drill, activate the absorption aura. The little balloon obeys instantly and a sinister energy begins to form, while the MC holds his whip, ready for the party. This energy explodes in the blink of an eye, creating a giant circle that covers the top of the building and descends, engulfing everything. The giant spider and its minions are caught dead in the energy wave, with nowhere to run. The agent's leader is blown away by what he's seeing. As his comrades are sent flying from the impact, he thinks to himself that this must be Morning Star class power. One of the spider's offspring screams in desperation as it's consumed by the mysterious energy and gets sent packing. Guso itself, feeling that things have gotten serious, thinks that this definitely a Morning Star level attack and panics because it doesn't want to be taken out before it can evolve. In the middle of the chaos, the little balloon Xiao Q continues to release energy, keeping the attack at full blast. The giant creature, seeing that the gig is up, lets out a terrified no. As its body begins to turn to dust, the spider thinks that this is way too humiliating of an end. And with a sound of disintegration, the creature simply explodes and vanishes in the middle of all that energy, becoming just a memory. The agent, still trying to process it all, wonders what kind of insane power that was. He figures that if the masked man helped, he must be on their side. Seeing the figure getting ready to bail, the agent reaches out his hand and yells, asking him to wait and wanting to know his name to thank him. The MC looks down and wonders why everyone wants to know his name, thinking about whether he should answer. He sighs and considers that if he tells them, maybe he'll get a cut from the special division. But he quickly gives up on the idea, remembering his social anxiety and imagining reporters at his door, not to mention the fear of crazy scientists wanting to study him for using abilities without being awakened. Turning his back and disappearing into the mist, the MC drops this line, say I have no name, nor do I need one, for I am merely someone the world has forgotten. Wow, how dramatic. The agent just stands there with a confused look on his face, staring at the empty rooftop. Intrigued by the MC's response, the agent starts trying to make sense of it, thinking that someone without a name must be some kind of ancient, legendary being. Suddenly, a guy pops up behind him and a voice asks if the evil god's ritual is over. The agent jumps, turns around, and along with his comrades, recognizes General Ai Xuan arriving late to the party. General Li says he came flying over as soon as he got the signal and wants to know if the spider priest escaped, or if it was already defeated. The agent points to the scene of destruction and informs his boss that the situation is already under control. Looking at the monster bits on the ground, he admits that the problem was solved, but unfortunately, it wasn't thanks to them. The scene shows the now silent city buildings, giving off that post-battle vibe. General Li gets lost in thought, mulling over the MC's phrase as someone forgotten by the world. The agent sees the general thinking and asks if something is wrong with what he said. General Li starts to theorize that if the MC was telling the truth and treated an evil god like it was nothing, then he's likely a forbidden existence. The agent almost has a heart attack imagining the MC is a forbidden existence, someone even tougher than the evil god itself. Walking across a rooftop with his balloon, the MC thinks about what a crazy night it's been. Half an hour ago, he was just some random nobody. All of a sudden, the boy puts a hand on his head, remembering he almost forgot to destroy the evil god's altar that the cultists had set up. He thinks that even though the cultists were sent packing by the fear balloon, the altar is still there, and that could be bad news. The buildings are covered in webs, showing the mess left for the city to clean up. The MC and his balloon walk down a dark hallway that looks like something out of a horror movie, stained with blood everywhere. After walking for a bit, he finally finds the place. He opens a door, revealing what's on the other side of the creepy room. Inside, the scene is bizarre, a ritual circle, candles, bodies, and a weird statue in the middle. Looking at one of the victims, the MC, whip in hand, says he's already taken care of the culprits and that the person can rest in peace now. Without wasting time, he swings his whip, which glows with a powerful energy. With a single strike, he sets the entire room on fire, burning the circle and the mess on the floor. The flames consume one of the bodies there, completely cleaning up the area. As everything turns to ash, the MC and the balloon stare at the statue, which looks very suspicious. Analyzing it up close, he sees it's obsidian and remembers that it's used to make protection bracelets. He picks up a sphere from the statue and thinks that, at the very least, it has a nice texture and he can probably sell it for a decent price. Examining the statue, he finds it a bit strange and fragrant and thinks its material must have cost an arm and a leg. He turns to his little balloon and asks the system if he can use the extract ability on the statue. The system gives him the green light. Then, he raises his hand and yells to extract, activating an energy circle circle around the statue. Smiling, the MC celebrates that the extraction was a success. But the joy is short-lived because something cracks behind him and his happy face turns to pure panic. The floor and walls begin to crack like a mirror, and the MC is completely lost, wondering what the heck is going on. Suddenly, the space shatters and the boy is thrown backward into the darkness, screaming like crazy. He falls through this void until he lands on a giant spiderweb, which can't be comfortable at all. Stuck in the web, all he can do is complain that the fall hurt like crazy. Looking at the web in his hand, he realizes it's spider silk and figures that the room was connected to another dimensional space. A strange sound gets his attention, and he turns his head, already expecting the worst. In the darkness, a giant skull with empty eye sockets slowly emerges, staring at him as if he were an insect. The creature reveals itself a monstrous spider, and the MC instantly recognizes it as the evil god itself, Atlachnachaya. The giant spider, full of legs and red eyes, glares at the miserable human who invaded its lair. Lying on the ground, feeling the pressure, the MC desperately thinks that he can't look directly at the creature, or he'll be done for on the spot. Sitting with his hands on his head, he complains that the noise is unbearable, and it feels like his brain is going to split in half. Out of nowhere, some nasty bubbles start sprouting on him, as if something is trying to burst out from inside his body. Red blades tear through his back from the inside out, and he screams in pain from this bizarre transformation. But then, a giant weapon that looks like a pair of scissors falls from the sky and sticks into the ground in front of him. The system announces that it has detected an evil god, activating protection mode. The MC is confused, asking if that thing is the system itself. The woman forms a barrier in front of the MC, shielding him from the overwhelming presence of the spider god. With her weapon in hand, the entity announces that they are leaving the dreamland and begins a 10-second countdown for the MC to get ready. As she counts down, the MC thinks that he had no idea the system was so OP. With a single strike, it severed the connection to the god and reversed his mutation. With a confident smirk and being protected by the system, the boy thinks that now there's nothing to fear. He lunges forward with his hand outstretched, telling the god Atlach that he didn't come all this way for nothing and that he's taking a souvenir. The creature recoils in annoyance as the MC yanks a strand of glowing silk right from its eye. The space begins to shatter and the escape is almost complete. The system and the MC see the portal opening for their exit. The countdown hits 0, and as he's pulled away, the MC gives a wave and calls out a goodbye. See ya around to the spider god. The boy is shot out in a flash of light, returning to reality. Back in the room, the MC pulls himself together next to the system's figure, while the little balloon floats around, a bit dizzy from the trip. Holding the spider god's silk, the boy celebrates his profit and realizes he's already back in his room, safe and sound. The hooded figure congratulates him for escaping an evil god, informing him that he has completed 2 out of 5 of the survivor achievement, and that his authority level is now 1. A screen pops up showing the item fragment of the Dreamland Bridge, which can open the bridge once. The description ironically asks if he wants to face the evil god again. The MC is just pondering, wondering what the heck this whole authority thing is about. The system entity gives it to him straight. For every authority level he gains, the host gets a surprise chest that could have top-tier items or absolutely nothing. The MC is ticked off, thinking what kind of cheap shot reward gives you an empty box. Staring at the ball of web he snagged, he asks the system to shed some light and ID the material. The system screen pulls up the item's stats. It's a 5-star spider god's thread from some bizarre evil god that isn't even a spider, and it has a divine power that can mess with anyone's head. The MC is blown away that a single thread is worth 5 stars. His eyes even sparkle as he imagines that if he yanks off the creature's limbs or eyes next time, he should get at least a 6-star item. The entity continues the lesson, explaining that even junky materials can create a Morningstar class monster capable of wiping out a city, and he also gets 10% of his subordinate's power. In his room, the MC's mind starts racing, concluding that if he farms enough items, he'll become a god in no time. Holding the thread, the MC cracks a sly grin and thinks it's probably best to keep a lid on it for now. Out of nowhere, someone pounds on the door, and the MC nearly has a heart attack, asking who the funny guy is. A voice replies that it's the Special Division and tells him to open up. The MC goes into full-blown panic mode hearing Special Division and shoves his little balloon monster, telling Xiao Q to hide. After hiding his partner, he heads to the door to see who's disturbing his peace. When he opens it, he's face to face with a smiling woman. She introduces herself as Officer Ning and asks if he's aware of the little party the monsters and occultists threw in the building. The MC stays quiet for a second, eyeing the officer's hand with suspicion. Officer Ning's hand is strategically placed on her piece, ready to draw if the MC tries anything funny. Looking like he's seen a ghost, the MC says yes and nervously spins a yarn. He claims he hid in the closet and played dead before the monsters even showed up, barely making it out. Officer Ning gives him a quick scan and sees no evil aura, confirming he's just some broke civilian. She then asks to give the room a once-over, and he agrees. In the room that looks like a tornado hit it, the MC asks if insurance will cover the busted wall and also asks if they've defeated the spiders. The officer lays down the hard truth, saying he's lucky to be alive, since his neighbor turned into a puddle of melted wax and spider silk, making the kid just let out a lame-o. On her radio, the officer reports that she found a survivor on the 7th floor, unharmed and with no evil aura. Command thanks her and gives her the all-clear to head back to the office. The officer signs off and complains that she's totally wiped and that the team is short-staffed. She grumbles that she still has to hunt down a chief who walks around with a yellow balloon, but the MC cuts her off by pointing out her mic is still hot. An angry voice on the radio, probably the so-called chief, yells for Ning to get her butt back to the office in 5 minutes to explain herself. The officer freaks out, stammers an apology, and bolts out of there like a madwoman. Watching the woman vanish down the hall, the MC closes the door and takes a deep breath, relieved the unwanted visitor is gone. Suddenly, he stops with a hand on his chin and a worried look, wondering if he left the oven on or something, showing the city at night completely empty. A hand picks up a piece of paper from the ground, which has a weird-looking symbol drawn on it. A woman holds the paper and cracks a smile that spells trouble. After that, it shows a few guys putting out the fires in the city. On TV, the news anchor reports on the previous night's disaster in the North District. The final count was 115 casualties and 74 survivors, and the investigation is ongoing. Lying down, the MC tries to catch a nap, but it's tough with all the noise outside. Out of the blue, his monster appears in front of him, trying to wake him up. The MC wakes up with a jolt and tells the balloon to get lost, while the creature keeps buzzing in his ear. Sitting up in bed, he yawns and stretches, trying to get his bearings after that crazy night. Looking at the balloon near the crater in the wall, he wonders what that noise was, then he figures it must be the wind, and that he needs to call a handyman ASAP. Standing next to the massive hole in his room, the MC puts on his jacket, while down below someone is watching him. The scene shows a girl on the street looking up, right where the MC is. Now on the sidewalk, the MC is taking a stroll through the city. Stopped in the middle of the street, he looks at the buildings, trying to remember where that renovation company is. Suddenly, a girl yells Lu Yu from behind him. He turns around confused, not knowing who it is. This girl, Tang Wan, shows up in front of him and asks what he's doing in the East District. He recognizes her and pulls her name from his memory. He explains that his place got turned into Swiss cheese and he came looking for repairs. The girl, all worried, asks if he got hurt, and he says no. With a friendly smile, Tang Wan invites the MC out for coffee. He accepts immediately. After all, you don't turn down a free meal. The two of them cross the street together in a slightly awkward silence. While they're eating, the MC feels shy, wondering why she's sticking so close to him. He remembers they barely said hi in school, so the whole situation feels pretty suspicious. A flashback shows Tang Wan surrounded by a bunch of simps praising her beauty and athletic talent. The MC concludes that they're from two completely different worlds. Another memory shows him in the classroom, drawing all by himself, while people gossiped about him being the weird orphan who draws strange things. Back in the present, he decides to shake off the past and focus on the now, and he remembers he farmed a bunch of items from the spiders and can already create a new monster. Just then, while chewing, the MC has an epiphany and freezes, paralyzed by a brilliant idea. Standing on the street like a statue, the MC looks like he's ascended to another plane of existence. The girl notices his system has crashed and asks what's wrong. He looks thoughtful, his gears turning about something important. All of a sudden, he turns his back and starts walking away, giving photos of the MC. With that backdrop, she says, "I'm back, Lu Yu," showing shelves filled with the MC's relics, all labeled with dates. There are pajamas, a pen, a little note, and even a jar with his hair in it. The room is a bizarre shrine to the MC, with pillows, dolls, and cardboard cutouts of him everywhere. The girl's hand reaches for the shelf and grabs a folded piece of clothing that she must have borrowed from him. She hugs the clothing tightly and turns bright red, looking like she's in heaven. Lying in bed, clutching the MC's pillow and clothes, she whispers his name with a bizarre level of neediness. Honestly, it's kinda reminding me of myself. The scene cuts back to the MC on the street, who feels that shiver down his spine you get when you know someone's watching. He looks around, completely confused, and wonders if the weather suddenly changed for it to be this cold. Back at his pad, the MC stretches happily, saying he's got everything sorted out. The repairs are coming in a few days, just as the balloon Xiao Q flies over to him. The MC catches Xiao Q and tells him to chill out, reminding him that he hasn't even eaten lunch yet. He pulls up several screens and decides to check out the loot he scored the day before. One screen lists the items: a 1-star rare poison sack, 5 normal sacks, a 3-star epic mutant egg, the 5-star spider god's thread, and a Morningstar class egg. The description says the egg came from a mother spider on the verge of evolving. It was corrupted by a bizarre energy and the evil god's aura, giving it an absurd amount of potential, and its rating is based on what it can become, not what it is right now. Looking at the screen, the MC is confused, wondering where this jackpot egg even came from. He remembers that monster of a spider he fought and is shocked to realize that brutish thing was a female. He wonders how the females of the species can be such brutes. Holding the weird egg, he wonders if it's alive and calls for the system's tech support. The system entity pops up with a ton of swagger and says it's always on the clock. The MC asks if the egg counts as a living being. The entity explains that an egg or embryo counts as material, but if the creature is on the verge of hatching, then it can't be modified. Holding the item, the MC understands he has to race against the clock before the thing hatches. Smiling, he gives Xiaoqi a little pat and calls him a good boy. He asks if he can use the items to upgrade Xiaoqiu. The system says his authority is too low and suggests creating another monster, which makes the MC think the balloon will become useless. Surrounded by energy, the MC tells the system to get the editing party started. With his hand outstretched, he commands the system to extract the broken pocket watch and the poison sack. The three items, the watch, the egg, and the poison, float and glow, starting the fusion process. Suddenly, the process fails and the items go flying. The MC is left wondering why the whole thing went south. The entity explains it wasn't a failure. The item just sucked up the material and became an empty shell, while the watch on the floor gives off sparks. The entity continues, saying the watch contained the blood of another evil god, and these gods despise each other. It gives an example of two gods who went at it just because they couldn't stand one another. The MC finds this interesting and asks if it's like a proxy war. And yes, I know exactly where all of your minds went with that one. The system explains that once he levels up his authority, he'll be able to manipulate these feuds and make the gods coexist in the same creature. For now, the trick is to use a top-tier material to absorb the crappy ones, and it hands the item to the MC, who thinks the idea is genius. The MC decides to save the evil god's silk for a special occasion. For now, he'll stick with the spider egg and the poison sack, and he commands the system to begin the addition. With his hand outstretched, he starts the process again, and a powerful energy swirls around him and the materials. The items merge into a sphere of light, combining everything into a brand new object. The system congratulates the host on his second familiar, the Void Shadow Spider Egg. Its rating is 4 stars, excellent, and it'll take 1 month to hatch, which makes the MC wonder if he's limited to just 2 creatures. Curious, he goes to check out the new little monster's stat sheet. The screens display its abilities: Void Poison, which disintegrates targets and blocks detection, Shadow Slaves, which creates assassin spiders, and Void Chest, which serves as an infinite inventory to stash his stuff. In his room, the MC is mind blown, thinking that being born as a Morningstar class with these stats is just way too broken. He notes he has 1 month until it hatches, which is plenty of time to study the world's meta and its factions. The entity congratulates him on the incredible edit and unlocks the Elite Editor achievement. As a bonus, he gets 1/10 of the spider's power and can choose 2 of its abilities for himself. Looking at the stats, the guy notices something and starts to panic, stammering for it to hold on a second. The traumatic memory of his neighbor screaming while swelling up and being consumed by red energy flashes through his mind. Suddenly, the MC's eyes turn red and he screams in pain, becoming engulfed in a dark and sinister aura. Writhing all over, he wonders if he's about to be taken out by his own familiar's power. His body swells up just like his neighbor's, and he floats in the air with a look of desperation. Xiaoqiu looks at him in total panic. With red marks appearing on his neck, the MC realizes he has to figure this out. He thinks that if he doesn't, the power from his creatures will be the end of him, and he wonders what you're supposed to do when a balloon is about to burst. He thinks that you can't just let the air out, and that there's no genetic trick he can pull to get rid of it either. With his face marked up and a determined look in his eyes, he thinks that it's all or nothing now, and that he's gonna have to do something desperate. He yells, "Hellfire Whip," and a whip made of flames erupts from his arm. Just like that, the fire engulfs everything, and the MC screams in pain, unleashing a crazy amount of pent-up energy. The blast is so intense that it shoots up into the sky and wraps itself around a building. Down below, everyone starts panicking. One guy asks what kind of voodoo that is, and another one immediately thinks the occultists are at it again. Lying on the ground, now back in his normal form, he can finally relax. As he gets up, he drops to his knees, exhausted but super happy, realizing that after that massive energy dump, his power limit has increased. The entity shows up to scold him, saying his body is too weak for that much pressure, and the MC agrees. She tells him to take it easy next time so he doesn't just go pop. The MC takes a deep breath, a single drop of cold sweat trickling down, trying to pull himself together after almost biting the dust. The entity asks what he's going to choose, and he decides to pick the Mark of Time and the Shadow Servant, since he's already set on attacks. The entity just says, "Alright," and the MC is enveloped by a dark energy as the skills begin to download. Next thing you know, a new clock-shaped mark appears on his hand, glowing brightly. He checks his status, sees he's now a 1-star tamer with new pets and skills. Then he turns to Xiaoqi and announces the new spider will be named Xiaoba since it has 8 legs. Real original, right? The little balloon starts shaking all over, clearly jealous and hating the idea of sharing the attention. Suddenly, the MC hears a noise and freezes, thinking, "Oh great, here comes someone to bother me again." The blonde officer pops up at the door, saying, "Well, hello stranger. Did you see the mess outside?" The MC, playing dumb, just asks what happened. The woman gives him a suspicious look, asking why he's out of the loop and all sweaty. He stammers more than a nervous wreck, saying he was just working out. She doesn't even care and tells him to move so she can search the room, and the MC yells in protest that it's an invasion of his privacy. Ignoring his tantrum, the officer barges in, followed by the MC who's sweating bullets. She's confused because the report swore the disturbance came from that building. She keeps trying to find something, while the little balloon hides behind her. Xiaoqiu slowly makes its way down, trying not to draw attention, or things are gonna get messy. With a big smile, she figures it was a false alarm and apologizes. The MC, relieved, gives that classic line, "Oh, no worries, it's my duty to cooperate." The officer tells him to go easy on the training because women don't dig the sweaty smell, and even compliments him for remembering her last name, Ning. As soon as she leaves, the MC lets out a breath, thinking he barely got away with that one. But then he looks around in a panic, wondering where that little rascal Xiao Chu got off to. The scene cuts to him running down the hall like a madman, yelling for the idiot deer to get back here right now. Later, we see the MC walking down a deserted street at night, heading toward the flower and bird market. At the shop, the seller doesn't even look up from his phone, completely absorbed in a game of Clash Royale, and tells him to look around. The MC just nods. With a slightly psycho smile, he gets close to a white rabbit, convinced the seller won't notice a thing. Staring at the little bunny, the MC decides this one is going to be the guinea pig for his bizarre experiment. He holds out his hand and activates Shadow Servant, making the power grab the little creature. The rabbit is swallowed by darkness, letting out a few panicked squeaks before vanishing into the shadow. In an instant, the critter reappears, but now it's chubby and its eyes are glowing a sinister red. Satisfied, the MC sees that it worked. It's explained that this crazy idea came from something he figured out earlier. In a flashback, he was reading the skills description and wondering if he could create a humanoid servant. He lets his imagination run wild, thinking that human servants would be perfect for keeping anyone from suspecting him. Plus, they could fight, cook, and give messages. Back in his messy room, he wonders where he'd get human shadows, maybe from criminals. But he quickly dismisses the idea, realizing that would get him hunted down by the army in no time. Back at the store, it shows he went there to test it on animals, and although it worked, the shadow in his hand isn't enough to make a human. The MC turns to the seller and asks, how much for the whole cage? The seller says there are 13 rabbits at 100 each, but for a high roller like him, he'll do it all for 1200. The kid complains that it's expensive, and the seller shoots back that, in these chaotic times, that's a fair price. So the MC tells him to throw the birds and the rats into the deal. The seller, seeing his whole month's commission secured, gives him a discount and free shipping. While the seller happily prepares the animals, the MC stands behind him, just watching with a look that says he's up to something. Afterwards, it shows a bunch of critters on the ground, rabbits, birds, and rats, all of them taken out. In the middle of all that carnage, the MC admits it's a sin, but figures he now has enough shadow to summon the servants. He raises his hand and summons the shadow servants, as a weird green energy starts to glow. The shadows merge into a big blob on the floor and begin to rise, forming strange silhouettes. 3 humanoids made of pure darkness appear in front of him. The MC gets closer to check them out and tells them to hold still so he can analyze them. He stares at one of them up close, and the creature gives him a creepy look right back. It shows the creature's point of view as it looks at the MC. He suddenly gets spooked and realizes something is off. All of a sudden, everything distorts, and he's surrounded by floating symbols that put him in a hypnotic trance. Dizzy and lost, the MC starts falling into this crazy void, about to pass out. But then a mysterious hand grabs his wrist tightly, stopping his fall. It's the system entity, who warns him about an unknown presence and starts an automatic elimination, leaving the MC totally confused. She pushes the MC away as a dangerous green energy fills the area. The entity creates a blue flame in her hand, ready to lay the smackdown on the threat. She fires the power at the monstrous shadows that appeared, and the blue fire rushes straight for them. The creatures scream as they're disintegrated by the entity's blast, turning to dust. Safe now, the MC looks at his savior and thanks her for saving his hide again. He explains he just wanted to connect with the servant but almost got swallowed. The guy realizes he was about to become Monster Chow. The entity chews him out, saying he needs to be careful and forbidding him from merging with strange energies, which makes the MC wonder if everything has an owner behind it. The entity stays quiet, keeping the mystery hanging in the air without answering. Finally, she says it's a secret and tells him to level up his authority ASAP. The MC gets that he's still too much of a noob to know the world's real secrets. He looks at the contained shadows and asks if it's safe now. The entity confirms that he's in control. Facing his creations, the MC demands to see what they're capable of. One of the monsters melts into the floor, turning into a puddle of darkness. The kid notices their stealth is insane, and their energy is almost undetectable. Determined, he lays it on the line and orders the servants to attack him with everything they've got. The 3 of them surround him, with dark blades ready to slice up their master. The MC's hand glows as he prepares to defend himself. In a blur, all 3 are thrown back by the MC. One is left kneeling and on fire, while the other hits the ground, all messed up. Seeing the creature burn, the MC yells that it cost him a fortune and cancels the fire so he doesn't lose his investment. He explains that he tested creating 3 separate types. Just then, a rat transforms into a version of himself. Deep in thought, he calculates that the bird is worth about 1.2 zhozhungs in strength, and the rabbit 1.4. He wonders if tigers would be better, or if using humans would make the servants smarter. But he shakes his head, thinking it's kind of messed up to use people for this. Out of nowhere, he notices something and, in a chibi version, asks in shock if they shrank. The 3 servants are way smaller and less intimidating, looking like evil action figures. The MC orders them to scout the area and let him know if they find anything weird. The shadows turn into puddles and glide away across the floor. Seeing this, the MC thinks it's pretty handy and comments that they're smarter than they looked. Sprawled on the floor, he reflects that he has offense and espionage, but all his power comes from monsters. He doesn't know how to cultivate energy for real. He decides he needs knowledge from the awakened or a cultivation technique, because those guys are hiding secrets and resources that he needs. He remembers some dude who called him a weakling, saying that level 9 is nothing compared to the morning stars. The entity suggests he search the internet. The MC thinks it's all just fake news, but she tells him to try anyway. The scene cuts to the city at night, showing that the search is about to begin. In a dark room, there's a guy typing on a PC while some shadow monsters watch him. A guy is reading some questions on a forum and complaining that the level of the questions is super lame. People are asking what an awakened eats, if there's a secret final boss, or if kids inherit powers. The guy at the PC is actually curious about all this nonsense. On the couch, the MC is looking at his phone and laughing. Some guy named Supreme Prodigy, acting like a big shot monster slayer, tells him to check out his page, and the MC sees the fish took the bait. The MC comments that there's nothing forum related on his page. On the other end, the PC guy gets mad, yelling that he's not level 2 yet, so he can't register. The dude explains that to get into the VIP forum, you need to be level 2 and submit your ID. Only then can you trade rare stuff. The MC thinks that sending his ID is just asking to be monitored by the army, so he considers just stealing an account instead. The guy gets impatient with the delay, wondering if he's been found out, but he's confident in his fake profile. The MC straight up calls the guy a scammer. The dude slams his keyboard, shouting that it's not a scam, it's an art. The guy decides he's not going to be humiliated and resolves to prove he's the real deal. The MC receives a picture of a fancy red invitation. The guy brags that it's for an exclusive night market for the awakened and challenges him to confirm it with anyone. The MC looks at the invite on his phone with a smile, figuring it's just for show. He thinks anyone could bluff and say they were invited to a federal banquet to see a princess. Even he could do that. On the other end of the line, the weirdo on the PC tells him to pay attention, because the message is real and will self-destruct in 5 seconds. With a smirk, the MC blocks the user and says goodbye, calling the poor guy a tool. On the screen, the block message pops up, leaving the other dude shocked and totally livid. Later, we see a dark, old street where a bunch of elegantly and mysteriously dressed people are walking toward a building, looking like some weird cult. A guy in a yellow overcoat, a top hat, and a smiling mask is standing in the middle of the street, hands in his pockets, just scoping out the crowd. He sees other people with bizarre masks, like a pig and a rooster, and thinks his style was unique, but apparently, it's become the new costume party uniform. He notices people with chicken, dog, and monkey masks, thinking this looks more like a bank robber getup than a secret meeting. At the entrance, 2 hulking guards in fox masks block the way for the MC and his giant servant. One asks for a ticket, but the head bouncer tells them to just go on in. The MC, under his smiling mask, realizes that even the doorman is a level 3 awakened and concludes he's gonna need a few tricks to command some respect. Just then, a shadowy aura starts seeping out of the MC, and the 2 doormen whip around instantly, sensing things just got serious. With his overcoat flying and the dark energy behind him like wings, the MC stares down the guards with the posture of someone who owns the place. The 2 masked guys are stunned. One wonders who this monster is that reeks of bad news, and the other can't figure out what someone so intimidating is doing at a simple night market. Surrounded by the dark aura, the MC thinks he just wanted to create some mystery, but now he's the center of attention. He figures he may have laid it on a bit thick with his entrance. Standing in front of the 2, the MC blurts out that he lost his invitation. One of the guards, shaking in his boots, asks if it's for the market and immediately invites him in. The MC smiles under his mask and asks if there's a line, but the guard replies that for him, the door is more than open, his words, not mine. While the guard is busy kissing up, saying the boss will love his visit, the MC thinks that having power is a whole different ball game. Even the bouncers turn into nice guys. The MC walks alone down a stone path lit by torches and lined with bamboo, enjoying the suspenseful, movie-like atmosphere. He arrives at a huge courtyard where several masked people are trading exotic items on rugs on the ground, like a dangerous flea market. A vendor wearing a bowling ball mask is kneeling, showing off some items, including a green crystal and a yellow stone that shines brighter than my future. With a satisfied grin and a different hat, the MC thinks that this is the true face of the night market. The MC spots a vendor kneeling in front of the goods that caught his eye. On the rug, there's a wild boar's tusk for weapon crafting and a piece of a 3-headed vulture used to make a potent tonic. The MC is floored to see such rare items being sold so casually, like they were slinging candy at a corner store. He continues his stroll, checking out the bizarre masks and the unique unique vibe of the place. Nearby, two masked people whisper to each other not to stare at the MC and to be careful, afraid of ticking off the big shots. The MC notices the crowd parting for him, feeling pretty important, but then sees that nobody gets close and wonders how he's supposed to blend in like this. He reaches another stall, where a vendor with a cat mask is offering books and potions. On the rug are 4 books with great titles, like How to Survive in the Jungle 2.0. The MC figures the basics in cultivation are just what he needs right now. Smiling under his mask, he thinks he can't look desperate and needs to play it cool. He then lets out a little fake cough to get attention and maintain his composure before negotiating. He picks up a vial and asks if it's the 5 burials corpse poison. The vendor confirms, listing the horrific ways it's created and says it turns a body into a toxic bomb, light stuff. She warns that if he forces a Morning Star class monster to drink it, the creature will suffer, but the MC thinks trying to bottle feed poison to a monster of that level is just asking for a one-way ticket to the great beyond. Holding the vial, he thinks the item is good but hard to use. He decides the books are a safer bet and tells her to wrap them all up. The vendor finds this odd and asks if he's buying school supplies for his kids to take home. The MC goes to pay, and the vendor asks for 1 spirit coin. He freezes, having no idea what that currency is or what it even looks like. The vendor explains that it's 13 hand-copied volumes with her own notes, assuring him it's worth the price, which leaves the MC looking thoughtful. A group of masked onlookers sees the scene and starts making fun of him, calling the MC a cheapskate for haggling over a single coin and asking if he left his wallet at home. Out of nowhere, a guy in a monkey mask shows up laughing, calling everyone idiots and saying they're easy to fool. The monkey masked guy points at the MC and says that the black cloak is a treasure that hides his aura, suggesting the MC is just a regular person who snuck in, leaving everyone shocked. With a malicious grin, the monkey guy tells the MC to take off the cloak, or he'll get messed up by the bouncer and lose a few limbs right there. The MC faces the guy and asks if that's a threat. The dude holding a staff says it's just the plain truth. With his face hidden by his hat, the MC gets ticked off and calls the masked man a reckless fool. A wave of dark energy erupts from the MC and shoots straight for the guy in the monkey mask. Before the dude can even blink, shadowy tentacles grab him and lift him into the air, making him look like a puppet. Trapped in the tentacles, the masked man screams in panic, trying to break free from that desperate grip. The MC projects an image of pure terror in front of the guy, scaring him out of his wits. In a swift move, a tentacle grabs the man in the monkey mask and slams him to the ground, leaving him all banged up. A guy in a demon mask laughs, saying the monkey talked too much and now he's flat on his butt, living up to his mask. Down and humiliated, the man in the monkey mask gets furious and calls the MC a despicable creep. Pointing at the MC, he yells that he's Shu Jujo's brother and that his brother will make him pay for this. Without a shred of mercy, a shadow tentacle slices off the masked man's hand with incredible speed. Kneeling and clutching his now gushing arm, the man screams in agony, crying out that it hurts so much. The MC approaches with his shadow creature and says he doesn't tolerate that kind of empty threat. The crowd is in shock. One person wonders if he's a demon, and another comments that the Asura family messed with the wrong guy. 2 men in fox masks push their way through the crowd, telling everyone to move. They arrive at the scene and size up the MC, who is just standing there with his shadow. The white-haired guy remarks that it's a shadow from that faction and finds the drama interesting. The vendor, scared to death, asks what the MC wants, saying they're just a few little hand-copied books. The girl says he can take the books, but her body is off the table. The MC glances at her, pictures an ironing board, and says he'll pass on her steel plate physique. The girl is clearly offended by the nickname. He then tosses a glowing item onto the rug and asks if that's enough to cover the bill. The girl picks up the item and is thrilled because it's a complete spider poison sac, praising the surgical technique used to extract it. The vendor explains that an incomplete one is already worth 10,000 coins, and an intact one like this sold for 100,000 at an auction. Holding the item, she wonders if it's really worth that much, and the MC realizes his extraction skill is a gold mine. Smiling under his mask, he asks if that covers the damages. The vendor says it's way too much and asks him to take it back for just 1 coin, but the MC, sweating bullets, thinks to himself that he only gave it to her because he's totally broke and calls her stubborn. He says she's amusing and can keep the item, but he'll collect the favor some other way. The girl's mind immediately goes to the gutter. The MC turns his back and says he's only into people his own age. Apologizing, the girl yells, asking who gave him permission to be so familiar with her. The girl, named Shu Xiaoqing, accepts the deal and hands him a handmade business card, which the MC compliments for its nice handwriting. Suddenly, a crew of men in suits and sunglasses surrounds the MC and the monkey masked guy on the ground. The leader tells everyone to get out of the way with some serious big boss energy. The vendor warns that it's Shu Jujo and tells the MC to run to the center where it's safe, but he just asks if this family is really all that. She explains that this Shu Jujo guy was a late bloomer but is soaring at level 9, and their grandfather is practically a legend, so this is a much bigger deal than he thinks. The vendor insists he's going to get himself in deep trouble, but the MC scoffs, asking if having a couple of measly level 9 guys makes them a great family. Just then, 2 shadow servants appear flying and position themselves in front of the vendor, who screams in terror. The servants surround her to protect her, and she begs them to run. The MC laughs, asking since when he became her brother, and calls her a little schemer. The man in the monkey mask, bleeding on the ground, begs his brother Shu Jujo to avenge him. Shu Jujo adjusts his glasses and replies that he doesn't need to be told. He can already see the mess. Staring down the MC, Shu says he had the nerve to harm a family member and is going to pay dearly for it. All of a sudden, Shu feels an insane pressure coming from the MC and his servants, and he starts breaking out in a cold sweat, realizing he's on a whole different level. The monkey brother also feels the weight in the air and his jaw drops, terrified of the mistake he just made. In a ninja-like move, Shu Jujo lands a sharp blow to the back of his own brother's neck. The monkey guy is knocked out cold and crumples to the floor. Shu kneels before the MC and starts spinning a tale about how he failed in his family's upbringing, saying he has already punished his brother and begging for forgiveness. The MC is completely confused behind his mask, thinking the script has gone wrong and that villains aren't supposed to apologize like this. Shu Jujo stares at the MC and his servants, with his unconscious brother beside them, in a tense standoff. Sweating profusely, the guy wonders why the masked man isn't saying anything, thinking he must still be mad. Bowing, Shu swears he didn't mean to offend the shadow-slicing lineage and offers a bribe of 1,000 coins. The MC thinks he's never heard of that, but decides to roll with being mistaken for someone important. With a grim smile, the MC says he hopes this serves as a lesson. Shu says his goodbyes and runs off, and the MC, flanked by his shadows, just tells them to get lost. As they flee, a henchman dressed as a clown asks why the boss hit his own brother. Shu replies that they just escaped a trap set by that so-called lineage. The clown repeats the lineage's name with a look of complete confusion. Shu explains that those people use shadows to create assassin sentinels and that they are extremely dangerous. He explains that the Crimson Hand is a massive organization of assassins that takes out even high-level targets, and this lineage is at the top of the food chain. The guy in glasses continues, saying that creating a sentinel costs a fortune in energy, and even the elite only have one, but the MC back there was flexing several of them. He says the masked man had 3 complete sentinels, which proves the guy is an absolute monster. He's thankful he traveled and learned about this, otherwise, the whole family would have been wiped out. Shu starts panicking about the future, and comes up with a plan to take the blame and resign to save his own skin. His subordinates yell that there's no way, saying that without him, the family will turn to dust. Back in the forest, the MC sees there's nothing left to loot. He sighs, annoyed that Shu ran off without a fight, ruining his fun. The girl in the fox mask watches from a distance, shocked that even the Su family ran off with their tails between their legs, trying to imagine the MC's true power. The girl gets closer and calls the MC sir. He turns and asks what's up, but then some guy pops up out of nowhere, saying the market's big boss wants a word with him. The MC plays it cool and agrees with a sure, no problem. The girl says she's crashing the party, and the guy just gestures for everyone to follow. In the middle of the crowd, a horned dude comments that the guy in yellow has an insane pressure that makes it hard to breathe. His friend agrees, surprised that a place like this has someone with such a heavy, dark energy. Then some weirdo in a rat mask throws out the idea of calling him the yellow-robed king, and the horned guy thinks the nickname is perfect. They arrive at a large building, and the guy points to the entrance, letting them know the boss is waiting inside. Getting there, the MC and the girl come face to face with 3 dudes sitting at a table under a tree. Everything's calm, but you can just smell the trouble brewing. The white-haired boss in a black suit stares down the MC, and his eyes glow, trying to intimidate him. The masked man realizes the guy is strong and is trying to size him up, but the MC isn't messing around and activates his Shelter of Time ability. A dark energy envelopes everything, and the watch on the MC's wrist starts glowing brightly, looking like some ability was activated. Out of nowhere, a giant clock materializes, and a bizarre, glowing insect flies out from inside it. The platinum-haired guy's vision gets all glitchy, showing flashes of a bunch of recent market scuffles, including the mess with the Su family. With the posture of the one in charge of this whole show, the MC stands in the center of the clock, completely in control of the situation. The guy is in shock, getting hit by a blast of energy that distorts everything around him. In his mind, the guy finds himself in a completely strange place. Desperate and with a splitting headache, he clutches his head and screams to himself that he needs to get out of this nightmare. Back in reality, the guy spits up some blood, and his beefy bodyguard rushes over to help, yelling for his master. He's super dazed and coughs up a lot of blood. The big guy gets pissed, turns to the MC, and yells, asking how he dares to attack his boss. Without a second thought, the dude charges at the MC, ready to throw down. But his master pulls himself together and tells him to stop the attack. The guy stands up, clasps his hands respectfully, and introduces himself as Li Cheng, from the Federal Special Division, completely humbling himself before the MC. Li Cheng apologizes for his screw-up and tells him not to take it personally. To make up for it, he promises not to touch the treasure and will even share everything he knows. The other guy, Ma Yang, welcomes him to the night market and says that if any news pops up about the treasure the masked man wants, he'll let him know right away. The MC just nods, but on the inside, he's totally clueless, having no idea what treasure they're talking about. He turns to the girl and asks her straight up what this treasure is. Ma Yang finds the question weird, but the MC thinks it was the perfect moment and that he's found an ideal spokesperson. The MC tells Ma Yang to explain it to her, and the guy obeys without question. Ma Yang is baffled, finding it strange that a big shot would share secrets with some random little girl, and starts thinking she must be some hidden prodigy. Everyone sits at the table, and the girl is now part of the circle, ready to hear the hot gossip. Ma Yang starts the story, saying the trouble began a month ago when the human eye thieves robbed a caravan. The girl recognizes the name instantly, and the MC is surprised, asking if she knows these guys. She explains they used to be regular thugs, but their leader made a deal with an evil god, and the result is they turned into monsters covered in eyes on their heads with bizarre powers. The girl continues, saying they gained a long life, but the curse requires them to eat fresh eyes from their own kind, or their bodies will decay. What a nasty diet, huh? And to make things worse, the more eyes they eat, the stronger they get. That's why they attack cities in hordes, becoming a nightmare for humanity. Ma Yang is furious, saying those thieves deserve to be taken out since they attacked his caravans and blinded the crew, ruining a lot of people's lives. Li Cheng agrees they need to be dealt with, but then he drops the bombshell. Among the stolen items, there was a dragon egg. The MC nearly falls out of his chair, thinking that a dragon egg is something out of this world and must be worth an insane fortune. The MMC asks how they got it without getting turned into dragon BBQ, and the guy remarks that stealing an egg like that is just asking to be hunted down by an army of giant lizards. Li Cheng explains that it's not a pure blood but a half-breed, the offspring of a dragon and another creature. The MC thinks it's a reject dragon, but Li Cheng warns him not to underestimate it, because the kid's father is a Radiant Moon-class dragon. Li Cheng says he felt the MC's power, and thinks only someone at the Radiant Moon level can handle this. The MC wonders if all that shine was just his little grasshopper. The girl is mesmerized, thinking the MC is some divine being from a romance novel who's gonna change her life forever. Her imagination is running wild. Li Cheng mentions that the caravan got careless transporting the egg without protection and ended up running right into the thieves. It's told that the only survivor had his eyes gouged out, but he pretended he'd kicked the bucket and spread the rumor to attract strong people to get revenge for him. Li Cheng says the thieves are smart and must have someone feeding them info from the inside, which is why he came to ask Ma Yang to investigate the missing people in the region. With a sly grin under his mask, the MC is already dreaming about grabbing that egg, securing a strong creature, and showing off while riding it. In his mind, he already sees himself flying on a fire-breathing dragon, shouting like a kid who just got a present. The MC asks about the victims, and Li Cheng says there were almost 100, and that the thieves' leader must have eaten thousands of eyes, reaching Morning Star level strength. The guy says that's small potatoes for the MC, and Li Cheng adds that if the news gets out, only the elite will show up. The MC plays it cool, but inwardly he's wondering what they think he is, since to him, everyone here looks like a monster. The MC reflects that he's getting the VIP treatment by mistake and breaks into a cold sweat thinking if he could even take a punch from these guys if they found out the truth. Li Cheng sighs, revealing he's all busted up on the inside and wanted the egg to try and heal himself and level up since he's 200 years old and has one foot in the grave. His guard tries to cheer him up, saying he'll find other treasures for his master to live longer. Li Cheng says it's impossible because the good items are guarded by monsters and he's already lost all hope. Then the MC drops a philosophical line about nothing and everything, leaving Li Cheng a bit confused. The guy points to himself in disbelief that he just received advice like that. Li Cheng keeps repeating the phrase in his head until it seems like a light bulb goes off in his head. Suddenly, the guy explodes with energy, levels up, and sends the table and chairs flying with the force of his power. In the middle of this dark whirlwind, Li Cheng lets out a desperate scream, and his guard holds onto him, scared out of his mind. The bear, desperately holding his master, yells at the MC, asking what the heck he did to the old man. The masked man just lets out a mysterious little chuckle, making the guy sweat bullets. The MC thinks, I have no clue what I did, admitting he just said whatever to comfort the guy. He still thinks the old man is stubborn for not using modern technology to live longer. The energy explosion continues, making a noise that echoes throughout the entire courtyard. Now calm, Li Cheng smiles, understanding the cycle of life and achieving a so-called spiritual enlightenment. The girl gets excited, thinking she got enlightened too. The MC is outraged, thinking he read the whole book and got nothing, while this guy reads one sentence and becomes a saint. Outside, the crowd feels the tremor and thinks some treasure is being born. Some dude starts recording with his phone, all happy, saying he's gonna shove this in his enemies' faces. Back at the table, peace reigns. Li Cheng is glowing like a brand new light bulb, and the guard serves tea as if nothing happened. We see a close-up of Li Cheng's golden eyes, now with a stunning clarity. The guard smiles at his boss, seeing that he's brand new and stronger than before. The servant throws himself on the ground and kowtows to the MC, begging for forgiveness for being so blind and saying he'll accept any punishment. Sitting there totally calm, the MC just says that's enough, no big deal. Li Cheng gets up and praises the MC, saying his ability is boundless for having noticed his problems so quickly. The guy thanks him, saying that without that tip, he'd have been a goner. The MC just thinks he doesn't understand any of this cultivator talk. Playing it down, the MC says it was no big deal, just a silly tip. Li Cheng says he wants to follow the MC forever to hear these tips. The MC breaks into a cold sweat, thinking get away from me, old man, who wants to live with a 200-year-old geezer. And suddenly, dawn begins to break. The MC says he's gotta bounce. Li Cheng wants to escort him, but the MC shuts him down immediately. Li Cheng agrees, a little sad, saying alright then. The MC takes the opportunity and says he has a son who might need a hand and asks for his card. Li Cheng promises to look after the boy as if he were his own son. The guard also offers his help, saying he's available to rough up anyone who needs it. The girl chimes in that she still owes him some serious cash and tells him to call whenever he wants to collect. The MC looks at her and thinks a house visit is complicated, especially with that flashy outfit of hers. The MC gives a little wave and leaves, while the rest bid him farewell with the utmost respect. The MC continues hopping from place to place, eager to get home quickly. The urban landscape appears with tall buildings and the morning sun lighting up everything. Back at his pad, the yellow coat and mask are tossed carelessly onto the sofa. Now without the disguise, the MC sits down and brags about another Oscar-worthy performance, thinking he's wasting his talent. Holding the cards, he plans his next move, create a powerful persona, and pull the strings from behind the scenes. From now on, Lu Yu will enter the world of the Awakened pretending to be a newbie. Sitting on the sofa and surrounded by his shadow servants, Lu Yu starts dishing out orders. He reasons that the thieves need fresh eyes, so they can't be far. Lu Yu orders his servants to patrol the city and report immediately if they see anything suspicious related to trafficking or the thieves. The shadow crew agrees. On the floor, we see the pile of books he borrowed from the girl at the market. Lu Yu picks up one of the books, ready to become a scholar of the world of the Awakened. Reading attentively, he smiles, finally understanding how this whole thing works. Sprawled out on the couch, he reads that spirituality is the mix of soul, body, and mind, the fuel for all the powerful folks. The book says there's energy in even a blade of grass, but only those with a lot of it can truly awaken. It also explains that schools keep an eye on students to find those who awaken. The MC thinks he can just chill at school and wait to be noticed. Flipping through the pages, Lu Yu continues devouring the information about awakening. The book tells of how the ancestors created the law of awakening and rituals to make people stronger, transforming humanity from prey into demon hunters. It also says the ritual is the foundation of everything, deciding who can and can't train, and the secret is in the visualization diagram. The more complex the design, the stronger the effect, kind of like downloading a file in 4K. The book shows that the awakened use their imagination to sharpen their spirituality, turning everything into a single point of light to level up. After that, the mission is to expand that point until it becomes a bright moon, and then condense it all into a virtual shadow for their own use. But the book gets straight to the point. Don't bite off more than you can chew. If a rookie tries to visualize the sun or the moon right off the bat, their soul can't handle the pressure, and the outcome will be tragic. And it doesn't stop there. Using heavy hitter monsters or evil beings as a reference is also just asking for trouble, since their power is way too much for someone just starting out. Looking at an illustration of some bizarre creature, Lu Yu suspects that's why no one can face these things directly. Now he finally gets the risks of this whole deal. Flopping onto the couch with his hands on his head, the MC freaks out, wondering where he's going to get these rituals and diagrams without having to sell a kidney. He decides to give it a shot and check out the first edition of the book he has. When he sees the contents, he's stunned by how janky and simple the diagram is. He thought the difference between the methods would be like comparing a brick phone to a modern smartphone. But he keeps thinking the reality was even worse. The difference is more like comparing a prehistoric pager to a trifold smartphone. Lu Yu then stops to think and realizes the first edition of the Spiritual Awakening Law has its merits, since it's the original method. It runs smoothly with any other ritual. So the strategy is to learn this basic one, and then swap it for something more powerful later. He notices that the so-called common solution is way too simple and full of holes. The big organizations cut out important parts of the manual on purpose, just so no one could get too strong without their permission. Curious about the reason for this censorship, he wonders how he's supposed to train with this incomplete manual. He even considers pulling a fast one on Li Cheng's group to snag the yin-yang method, but he doubts they just hand over the goods. He quickly scraps that boneheaded idea, thinking it's impossible, and even if they did hand it over, their method is probably weak anyway. So he decides to follow his golden rule of not taking risks, and just sticks with the Spiritual Awakening Law. He reflects that since this method accepts any image, which one should he use? He thinks about his servants, Xiao Qi and Xiao Bei, but even though they're loyal, their potential is a little too low for this. Imagining a terrifying creature, he gets totally carried away, thinking that if he could control an evil god, it'd be a whole different story. With his hands on his head, the MC realizes he can't play with fire, or his mind will get invaded again. He concludes he needs a more down-to-earth image. Even with his eyes closed, his head becomes a total mess with images of Buddhas, bearded gods, and even dragons, but nothing seems to fit. Suddenly, his mind short-circuits, and an explosion of energy goes off, like his brain just hit the blue screen of death. Startled and seeing the whole scene around him looking glitchy, he has no idea what just happened. He gets up and starts pacing back and forth, thinking that imagining random stuff isn't working. He wonders if if there's any powerful being out there that won't fry his brain, or if he's just stuck in this endless loop. Out of nowhere, his balloon appears, floating in front of him, looking like a party decoration for a moody kid. The MC tries to shoo the balloon away, saying he doesn't have time for its cute tricks and telling it to get lost, but the balloon, full of attitude, just lets out a grumble. As his hand gets close, a complex energy pattern starts to glow on the balloon's surface, catching his attention. Staring at that glow, the MC has one of those genius movie ideas and yells that he's finally cracked the code. With a determined look, he declares that the pattern on the fear balloon doesn't mean anything, but since he's the one who created it, it now has a purpose. He found the perfect visualization object, something that can get stronger and won't try to take him out. With his arms wide open and his little balloon bodyguard, Lu Yu reveals his brilliant conclusion: the best model to visualize is none other than himself. Sitting on the floor, Lu Yu begins to meditate like a monk, with a golden energy flowing around him. With his eyes closed and focused on his goal, the yellowish energy starts to gather on his shoulders and neck. Seen from above, the MC is in the middle of a pool of golden light that has filled the entire room. A ghostly version of himself appears, glowing and shooting out rays of light, showing that the power is coming in full force. Suddenly, Lu Yu opens his eyes impatient and complains that the process is slower than his home internet, questioning if it's the incomplete diagram's fault. He leaps to his feet, determined, and tells himself he needs to speed up the visualization, but he quickly corrects himself, remembering that haste makes waste, and he needs to be precise. The MC then pulls out the bag of spirit coins he scored at the market, ready to use them like an energy drink for his training. It's explained that for awakened people, these coins are pure energy extracted from ores. They're not just for rituals, but also work like a portable charger to replenish the body's energy. Lu Yu feels like the previous training session drained his battery and decides it's no time to be cheap. He's gonna burn through all the coins at once. Crossing his legs again, he goes back to meditating, imagining black tentacles sprouting from the back of his energy self. A few hours later, sweating buckets, he opens his eyes, certain that it worked. A dark version of himself materializes, surrounded by a blue and golden aura, proving the effort was worth it. Surrounded by ribbons of golden energy, the MC celebrates, super proud of his achievement. He's surprised to feel a different vibe and wonders if his projection end up getting divine abilities as a side effect. With a confident smile, he turns and says he's not going to pick a side. After all, it would be crazy to rebel against his own image. With his eyes closed, a sinister silhouette with blue details stands behind him, demanding respect. The mental image he created is of a powerful being, with points of light on its chest shining like constellations. A notification pops up in his mind, introducing the regional visualization diagram. The Hand of Chaos. Looking at that giant chaotic hand, he's intrigued. In the palm of the Hand of Chaos, 3 small lights are floating, and the MC recognizes them right away. They're his servants, Xiao Q and the unborn youngest, Xiao Ba. The MC reflects that he never expected to visualize an entire world by himself. He realizes the Hand of Chaos is just a piece of his demon god, and if he unlocks the rest, the power will be insane. He snaps his fingers and says that it finally clicked, feeling as enlightened as old man Li Cheng. With his arms open wide, he starts leveling up like crazy, blasting through the 9 stages of awakening like it's nothing. When he reaches the 9th stage, he feels a block, but he realizes it's not a problem, but a safety lock from his own body to keep him from blowing up due to a weak foundation. Out of nowhere, one of his shadow servants pops up in front of him. The MC turns around and asks if there's any new gossip on the shadow thieves. Alright, next chapter. We're in a new location. Our guy tells his shadows to destroy the nearby cameras. Then, one of the shadows quickly moves towards a security camera with a single strike, smashing the device, which is now just a pile of scrap metal on the pavement. Strolling casually, Lu Yu comments that the city is going to have a heck of a time replacing these things. He thinks that if the damage wasn't essential for his plan, he'd never have the heart to break something. Our boy asks his minions where exactly the kidnappers are hiding. Pointing to the building right ahead, the shadow confirms that the place is full of little kids being held captive. Our MC is disgusted by the cruelty of people who'd use innocence for a ritual. He wonders why they'd risk so much by taking kids, instead of less conspicuous targets. So, Lu Yu grabs a cardboard box, pretending to be just another delivery guy. Opening the door just a crack, a suspicious blonde guy eyes our MC, asking what he wants. Annoyed by the interruption, the dude complains that nobody there ordered anything and tells our guy to scram before things get ugly. The MC insists that the package looks like it's for something really expensive and he wouldn't want to make a mistake with the delivery. The guy gets all interested when he hears it's something expensive and immediately tells our MC to just hand over the box. Even though he's suspicious, the dude takes the package, thinking he's about to score. However, when he opens the package, he realizes there's nothing inside and starts yelling, asking if our guy is messing with him. At that exact moment, a shadow emerges from the package to pounce on the distracted goon. With no time to react, the swift attack nails the bad guy dead on. Down on the ground and weakened, the man is clearly in a world of hurt. Then Lu Yu orders the scumbag to unlock his phone and show him all of his dirty deeds. Trembling with fear, the bad guy grabs the device, trying to buy a few more seconds from the MC. As soon as our guy gets the phone, however, what he sees on the screen is so twisted it disgusts him, and he comments that guys like this get a kick out of tormenting people. With no patience for excuses, our MC gives the final order, and one of his shadows finishes the job. The bad guy even begs for his life, but he's taken out by the shadow. Suddenly, another bald criminal comes out of the house, complaining about what's taking so long. When he comes face to face with our MC surrounded by shadows, he lets out a scream, and in the blink of an eye, he's neutralized, without any mercy. Then, Lu Yu tells his shadows that there's still a lot of trash to take out tonight, because inside an abandoned warehouse, there are several children. In the center of it all, there's a strange stone pillar that seems to be the focal point of a ritual. Two bad guys are talking nearby, complaining that it's a waste of resources to use them on just kids. The redhead smirks, since all he can think about is the reward he's gonna get when the job is done. However, the big guy with the eye patch is only interested in becoming a powerful awakened by using their holy water, but their conversation is interrupted by our guy, who emerges from the shadows wanting details about this plan. The criminals are startled, and the redhead tries to draw his gun as fast as possible. He quickly pulls out a gun and points it at the intruder. The dude aims at Lu Yu, thinking one shot will be enough to take him down. However, one of our MC's shadows launches a surprise attack on the criminal. He's slammed forcefully to the ground, while the MC just casually watches it all happen. Realizing the MC means business, the big guy with the eye patch tries to play dumb, saying they have no beef with him, and suggesting our guy just pick a kid and get lost. However, Lu Yu fires back, asking who said he only wants to save one, while the bad guy warns him not to play the hero, because these kids belong to a very dangerous group. Our MC asks where this so-called group is, so he can end this for good. Then the bald guy starts to transform in a grotesque way. Watching the mutation up close, the MC notes that it's a low-level ritual that fries the user's brain, turning the guy into a mindless beast who's about to lose all sanity. Totally out of his mind now, the mutant screams he's going to suffocate the MC and tells him to feel the despair of running out of air. Our guy glances at one of those spheres, curious, but the criminal leaps towards Lu Yu, yelling that nobody escapes his charge and that this is the end for the punk kid, once and for all. But our boy doesn't just stand there, he activates his Hellfire ability. The MC takes the mutant's punch like he's just blocking a light summer breeze. The mutant goon gloats, thinking the heat would evaporate his purple liquid and create a fatal toxic mist to cut off our boy's breathing in seconds. However, the so-called toxic smoke is nowhere to be seen, and the MC mocks his stupidity, telling the villain to look at his own hands before celebrating his victory. Then, the monster realizes too late that Lu Yu's fire isn't normal and has already started to scorch his skin, and, in desperation, he tries to put out the fire but with no luck. So, our MC tells him to spill the beans already, asking where the heck these shadow thieves he's looking for are hiding. But the flaming bad guy swears up and down he doesn't know anything, while pathetically begging for his life. Desperate, the guy pleads not to be taken out, as the heat from the black flames is melting away what's left of his consciousness. Soon enough, the villain becomes just a stain on the floor, and our MC wonders if the guy was genuinely clueless or just chose to be eliminated rather than talk. Then, our guy spots the redhead and tells him to stop playing dead. Getting closer, he warns that if the redhead doesn't want to get roasted too, he'd better start talking. Scared out of his wits, the goon starts to cry and promises he'll tell him everything as long as our MC keeps that fire away. Our boy then asks directly about the location of the shadow thieves, since his time is running out and he doesn't have patience for stalling. The redhead reveals that no one dares to find the eye thieves, but that their current partners are from the Primordial Darkness cult. Lu Yu is surprised by the group's name, because that's a bunch of wackos he's heard about somewhere in the past. In our MC's mind, an explanation pops up. This cult seeks eternal silence and absolute truth, serving some bizarre god of destruction. They say their deity is represented by a silver key capable of opening legendary doors, but that knowledge of it usually drives its owner insane. And, although they seem peaceful, these lunatics want to plunge the entire world into total darkness. Questioning the goon's certainty, the MC asks how he knows it's this cult just this from a simple statue, and why they want the children. The guy swears swears he'd recognize them anywhere because besides the black cloaks, all members have a bizarre red scar on their right hand. However, before the informant could say anything else, a surprise attack neutralizes this bad guy. Just like that, our guy turns the body to ash with his flames. On top of that, our MC crouches down to grab the criminal's cell phones, thinking that tracking these devices could be useful to lure in reinforcements. However, he hears a strange noise and realizes someone nearby is trying to hide their presence, but not quite succeeding against his senses. So, our guy puts on his creepy, smiling mask and comments that whoever's there likes to play with their prey before the end. But a soft female voice replies from the shadows, saying it's a shame to get such a bad review when they haven't even properly met. And right after, the girl appears with a super cheerful hi. Looking at the key necklace around her neck, Lu Yu wonders if the Primordial Darkness cult has already come to collect the children for a ritual. However, the girl just makes a face like she has no idea what the MC is talking about with all his serious questions. Dangling the pendant in front of him, she asks in a playful tone if our guy is interested in her accessory. And, without any ceremony, she simply tosses the piece of jewelry towards him, saying it's a gift from her now. As the object flies through the air, one of the shadow servants quickly appears to catch the necklace in its hands. Lu Yu carefully inspects the item and lets out a sigh of relief, noticing that the key doesn't carry any curses or magical traps. However, the girl is surprised to see his subordinate, questioning how he created a servant so pure and fixed in a human form. But the MC just asks if she's part of the cult, and she confesses she just thought the uniform was cute, knocked out a member, and stole her clothes. Showing off her peculiar fashion sense, the girl explains that she spruced up the look and even mixed in accessories from other sects to make the cult's outfit cuter. Our guy thinks she's either a complete nutcase or an incredibly powerful warrior for messing with dangerous groups like that. But the young woman assures him he doesn't need to worry, as she's disgusted by Guy's stuff and won't hurt him for now, and says that her real desire is to find out what face is hiding behind that smiling mask. Then she dashes towards the MC, but our MC dodges and tells her he just has a regular face and there's nothing interesting to see. And he asks who's the person watching them from the darkness over there. Falling for the oldest trick in the book, the girl turns around and realizes there's absolutely no one there. Noticing the MC has vanished, she's impressed by his speed and comments that the guy is slipperier than a bar of soap. Suddenly, one of the doors opens, and a team from the Special Police Division shows up, yelling for no one to move during the operation. But they're surprised, both the group's leader and her assistant. They're confused about what happened to the bad guys, seeing only the girl. So, the officers order her to step away from the victims and surrender immediately, without a fight. The girl realizes our MC set her up to take the blame for the whole mess, while he slipped away. Immediately, the officers launch their attack, but she's not fazed one bit and just points her finger while activating some kind of ability. Suddenly, a small portal starts to form, creating two gigantic vortexes at once, sucking in all the energy from the officers' attacks without any effort at all. The police then realize she has a high-level spatial visualization ability. However, the young woman starts asking if they really don't believe she's just passing through. This gets the male officer annoyed with her excuses, but his partner seems to believe the girl's story. Switching to a gossipy tone, the young woman says she was just dumped by a man and the female cop is suddenly all ears. The young woman points to the shadow trails on the ground as proof of her supposed ex-boyfriend's power. The officers mention that King in Yellow, guy who caused a scene at the market, and she then claims to know him very well. Continuing her little drama, she claims she can't reveal his identity, but that she only wants to protect him from the sidelines. And she asks them to put a notice in the paper if they find the man in the mask, disappearing into her own portal, while the female officer waves goodbye, promising she'll help with the search. However, the officer gives his partner a light smack on the head for being so naive with a suspect. The female officer complains about her cousin's lack of romance, saying he doesn't understand a thing about love. But the officer reflects that the girl's story makes sense, connecting the dots between the King in Yellow and that proud man she mentioned. The officer's eyes then go wide as he considers the possibility that the masked man could be a disciple, or even a direct descendant of a powerful bloodline. Trembling with fear, the man wonders if he's going to end up getting taken out for knowing too many secrets, while his partner complains she'll dock his pay if he doesn't focus on the job. The scene cuts to Lu Yu walking alone through the city's deserted streets, trying to sort out his thoughts. But he stops, sensing he's being followed by someone who's terrible at hide and seek. And he comments that his pursuer's speed is pretty disappointing and asks why they're being so quiet. Showing the pendant, our guy taunts the hidden person, since he noticed the tracking trick on the object from the start. The girl appears and takes the necklace, and says our guy is a total buzzkill for ruining the surprise she'd planned so carefully. However, Lu Yu claps back, saying her vibe involves some pretty obvious tracking spells and that tactic is way too old to work on him. Thinking to himself, he finds the situation amusing and wonders if she'd even hand over her clothes if he kept staring, but then concludes he's not that much of a stud. The young woman then changes the subject and asks if our MC wants a hand finding the shadow thieves, since she seems to have useful contacts. Keeping his guard up, Lu Yu realizes she's testing his intentions and decides to act indifferent so he won't fall for the girl's little game. The young woman suggests they go somewhere more private to talk, but the MC shuts her down immediately. Blunt and to the point, our guy tells it like it is, saying she can either spill what she knows right now, or she can get lost before he loses his patience. With her eyes sparkling with excitement, the girl praises our MC's sharp mind and asks if he'd really have the heart to let her meet her end there. Lu Yu replies that her plan was way too obvious, and states that even a chess piece can have its own secret goals. The young woman confesses that she's dying to peek at what's behind that mask. Our guy asks if she's going to spill the beans already, or if he can just go home and sleep, while she complains about him being in a rush. However, getting closer, the girl starts talking about a dragon egg that was found, and mentions that its maternal lineage is very special. He thinks that the mother dragon's strength might even be greater than the father's, who is a bright moon level. However, seeing our guy's silence, the girl wonders if he found the information too weak, or if he already knew all of this. Then, she reveals that this egg's lineage involves a being of an unknown level, one that no one dares to name out of pure fear. However, even while keeping his cool, our MC is internally shocked, thinking that this father dragon must have been insane to mess with a divine entity. So, making a bizarre comparison, he imagines a hook up between an ant and an elephant, resulting in a hybrid that shouldn't exist. Mainly reflecting on the real danger, Lu Yu understands that these beings possess the power of gods, and that any involvement with them reeks of conspiracy. So, questioning the source of that gossip, our guy asks how her group managed to find out such specific details about something so secret and dangerous. The young woman states with total confidence that she knows all of this because she saw it with her own two eyes. Furthermore, she describes a finger from an ancient deity which carried abyssal power before it was properly sealed. And she says she was guarding this seal until a bright moon-level dragon broke into the forbidden area and stole the cursed object. The girl explains that the dragon was seduced by that finger and sacrificed its own life in a ritual to create the egg that would serve as a vessel for our reincarnation. Our MC is puzzled, wondering how a male dragon managed to lay an egg by itself, and thinks the whole story is beyond bizarre. On top of that, the young woman explains it's that some guys from a dark cult took the egg to try and perform a ritual, and that several different factions got involved in the mess, and things turned sour between the members because of all the backstabbing. Because of this massive free-for-all, a thief lord sees the chance to steal the item and hide out in the middle of a misty forest. Hearing this important detail, our guy gets pretty excited, because now he finally has a clear direction to follow to pick up the criminal's trail. However, the mood gets a bit more serious when the girl stares at our MC's mask and asks what he's really planning to do. Being polite, she decides to introduce herself first and strikes a formal pose, revealing that her name is Shen Woyu. She then asks what the MC's name is, so she can help with the mission. But before he answers, you're gonna have to hit that like button if you want the next part.